Welcome to episode 5, Refuse to Choose. This is actually a review of an excellent book. This is one of my favorite things in my creative toolbox, Refuse to Choose by Barbara Sher. Barbara Sher was an author, a speaker, and a coach. She passed in 2020 at the age of 84. And in the era of niche down, specialize, have a consistent portfolio, she gave us permission to not have to choose. And if you listen to episode 4, when I talked about curiosity and being curious and looking for ideas, if you're like me, some of you have been like, are you crazy? I have so many ideas. I don't know where to start. I can't start on something because I don't know how to choose. Well, today I'm speaking to you because that's how I am. And like I said, Barbara gave me the permission to not have to choose. So it was written in 2006. My mom is the one that told me about it. I'm not sure. She may have given me my copy of it because mom said, this is you. And she was right. So Barbara breaks down in the book people into 2 types, scanners and divers. A scanner is someone who has so many ideas, many different things, has an interest in a lot of different things that aren't necessarily connected. Whereas a diver is a person who specializes, a specialist. And does that sound familiar? Does that sound like our current economy, job force, college, everything? Everybody wants you to specialize, to pick, to choose. What are you going to do? What's your look? What's your career? Probably most of us have a lot of divers in our life. My husband's a diver. He's been at the same career since college, and it's just a part of his identity. But specializing is a modern concept. Barbara brings up a lot of examples like Aristotle, Leonardo da Vinci, Benjamin Franklin. These and many more in history didn't niche down, didn't specialize in one particular thing. They may be known for certain things, but they had a huge variety of interest and had an impact in a variety of different subjects. So in her book, she assumes if you're reading it, you're a scanner, or maybe you're reading it to understand a scanner because there's someone close in your life. But I'm just going to assume that you're a scanner like me. And she kind of breaks down the different types of scanners. Most people fall into 2 different types, a cyclical scanner or a sequential scanner. And she has some differing types underneath each of those 2. So in a cyclical scanner, you have interests that you keep revisiting. Maybe you're a double agent and you have 2 major interests that you bounce back and forth between. Maybe you're a Sybil, that you have many interests. You're torn between them almost to the point of paralysis sometimes. You have so many things that you've started and you want to do, but then you can't decide when you've got free time, which one do you want to do? Maybe you're a plate spinner. You're really good at getting a lot of things done. In fact, you're so good that sometimes you don't stop and do the things that are the most interesting to you. You've got so many things going at once. You're juggling. People are amazed at what you can get done. But deep down, you know you're not doing the things that are important to you or of interest to you. And then we have the sequential scanners. These are people who keep moving to new interest without looking back. So under sequential scanners, a serial scanner is someone who likes to experience different things. The emphasis is on the experience. It's not so much wanting to learn and deep dive into something. It's just, that sounds cool, I want to try it. That sounds cool, I want to try it. And they move from thing to thing just to have that experience of it and to feel what it's like to have that experience. A serial master, on the other hand, likes to learn something to some level of mastery before they move on. They deep dive, but that's not their forever. They deep dive and then they move to something else and then they move to something else. This is the scanner I most identify with. And then there's a jack of all trades who can do a lot of things. Chances are you probably know someone in your life that's a jack of all trades. They know a little bit about everything. They're not an expert in any of it, but they've tried many, many different things and can do a lot of different things. She named some other types like the wanderer, who is experienced for its own sake, very similar to the serial specialist, but there's really no continuity to it. It's just kind of live and let live and enjoying life along the way. Or the sampler, who's a lifelong learner. When you think of someone who will go to a lecture on Russian poetry, and the next week maybe they're learning how to knit a sweater, and then the next week they're diving a little bit into maybe a language, and they just want a little bit of it. They just want to kind of hear them know the why, just little bits and pieces of life, kind of a smorgasbord of life. That is a sampler. And then there's high-speed indecisive. I've never really met someone like this, but she had some good examples in the book. It's someone who is just fired up by everything. They're looking at woodworking, and then they turn and they're looking at glass blowing, and then this and then that, and this history. It's just I think a lot of times people think of someone who's got maybe ADHD or ADD as this type of high-speed indecisive. And it's not that they can't learn or slow down. There's just so many things coming at them. Everything's interesting, and it just jump to different things. Now, those types are kind of like the outliers in the scanners. She says most fall under either a sequential or cyclical scanner. And you've probably something rang a bell and says, yeah, that sounds like me. I know, like I said, I identified with the serial master. But I think as I get older, I'm getting a little bit more cyclical. I'm letting some things drop to the side, some hobbies and interests. I'm finding that I have less bandwidth for new, and I'm revisiting some of the things that I have done along the way. So you may change as a type of scanner, but without a doubt, I'm definitely a scanner. So in her book, beyond just defining the scanners and giving you permission to have a lot of ideas, she gives a lot of tools for handling your life and designing your life around being a scanner. She gives career advice on what are good careers if you're different types of scanners, what things will fit into your life, and kind of how to handle this influx of ideas and how to design your life around the way that you like to live it and learn and explore and chase your ideas. One of the things that really stuck out to me when I read it, and I think I read it pretty close to 2006, I've had this book for a long time, was the concept of a good enough job. And I know this is probably one of the things that is the hardest in our society. We're expected to figure out in high school or even now junior high, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are you going to do? What are you going to be? So you start to take those classes in high school, and then you get into college and you have to declare your major, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to do that for the rest of your life. And that's uncomfortable. There's so many different things. Like I have an art degree, and yes, I've done art a good chunk of my life, but I'll be honest, it's not the most profitable career. And there's times where money has been more important than pursuing art. I have a master's degree in city planning, but in my emphasis was sustainability. I've always had an environmental interest, and I went into environmental education with that. And the job field was different than going into planning. It was less stable. It was less money, but it helped me pursue the part of that interest that I really enjoyed. Now, how is this a good enough job? Well, definitely now as I get older and I'm getting closer to retirement, I want to pursue these interests. I want to go back to doing more art. I want to get out of my garden more. I want to be able to make YouTube videos or classes and different things. So the good enough job is one of those you take, and it's good enough. You can do what you need. I mean, I don't need to pay all our bills with income. I'm just a contributor to our household. The bulk of the earning is my husband. But I do contribute. And this is why I can be a garden assistant or any other type of part-time job. It's good enough. I just want something that's interesting and makes a little bit of money so I can contribute. That's good enough. Some people can have a good enough career. It's something that they find that they can go to on a 9-to-5 basis, and it gives them the funds to pursue all the ideas and different things they have in their life. So again, for me, I was a serial master, starting to get more cyclical as I get older. I really can't define myself under there. I just know that I'm revisiting some of my interests. I still have new things. Art has been perfect for me to be able to explore these different ideas. I'm good at several media. but I wouldn't say I'm an expert at any of them. I can do acrylic, watercolor, pastel, drawing. I'm very good at a lot of these, but I find that I can't work at one long enough to be that's my thing. That's how I'm going to. None of these are the thing I want to do for the rest of my life. And in fact, one of my favorite things about art is learning new things. It's one of the reasons I loved teaching, especially with kids and doing summer camps and stuff, is I would choose something like mosaics I'd never done, learn how to do it and get the supplies and teach the kids. I think that's part of my mastery part, is learn something enough to teach somebody else, because I have that teacher's heart. And art's been great for me for that I can explore different things, explore different interests, and then turn around and do something with it. So even though I've been teaching in person for years, really right after I got out of college, was probably one of my first classes I was teaching, I found it really hard to make the transition to online classes. And I think part of this is that I am not the watercolor expert or the acrylic painting expert. My expertise was pulling that creativity and helping people develop their ideas. And that's what my strength was as a teacher. I knew enough about my subject to teach the basics, but my real skill was helping that person develop internally their own talents and use what I was teaching them to grow with it and be creative. So that's kind of one reason I'm doing this YouTube. I'm hoping to help you pull that creativity out of you and do something really fulfilling with it. So, are you a scanner? Do you feel that knot loosening in your chest, that this is okay to have so many ideas, to have so many interests, to not niche down and have a thing? Do you feel a relief that there's not something wrong with you, that this is okay? Especially if the people in your life are diverse. My husband saw the book on the counter. I've owned this book nearly 10 years. And he said, uh-oh, that title looks a little dangerous for you. I just laughed. I mean, he's a diver. I'm a scanner. It is what it is. So my biggest takeaways from Refuse to Choose are: you are okay. There is nothing wrong with having so many ideas. Half-done projects are okay. I have a family recipe website that I started a couple years ago. It's not fully fleshed out like I want it to be, but I got it started. I'm okay with that. And oftentimes the kids will ask me, is that one on the website? So, it's out there, it's existing. I'll continue to work on it when I get a chance. And sometimes it's okay to stop. Barbara talks about making kind of almost like a shrine of half-done projects, and it's okay. I move too much. I don't like dragging things around. So in fact, I had a quilting project that I started shortly before my last child was born. She's 23. And it was really cool. I got partway through it. I was taking a class with a friend who was a big quilter, and she kind of the one that got me into it. And after my daughter was born, I didn't touch it. And it sat in my house for years. And I think we moved it between Texas and Virginia. But when we moved from Virginia to Florida, we got really brutal with throwing out things. And I'm like, okay, it's been, let's say I think it had been 18 years at that point, and I had not touched that project. It was time for it to go away. So I donated. I didn't actually throw it in the trash. But it was okay. I don't feel any guilt. In fact, I feel less guilt now it's out of my house. So a shrine of half-done projects wouldn't work for me. But it may work for some. If you like that idea, take it. If not, give yourself permission to get rid of this stuff. Donate it. Give to somebody who loves doing whatever you started and would love to finish it. Another good takeaway from the book was to shrink your projects. Shrink the size of your project to fit reality by only choosing the parts you love the most. And I admit I had a hard time wrapping my head around that, because most projects, there's a beginning and an end to it. For example, making a dress. You can't skip parts of that. You can't skip cutting out the pattern because you don't like it. You can't skip sewing it together and just walk around with fabric stuck to you. I had to really think on that one. And then I realized there is something where I've applied that in my life. One of my hobbies is scrapbooking. I love to scrapbook. I've been doing it since I think right around the 2000s. Remember the era of creative memories? Got into that really big. And if you recall, if you got into scrapbooking back then, or if you're a scrapbooker, there are so many accessories, so much paper and scissors and stickers and everything. And there's books on how to do pages and recipes for pages and patterns and very elaborate pages. And of course, being the artist I am, and I have hand drawn all over pages, I have so many photographs and things. If I continue like that, I'll never get done. And I realized several years ago, my favorite part of scrapbooking is the journaling, is the storytelling. To me, scrapbooks are telling a story. Somebody can pick that up and read about whatever it is without having to be there, or read about it and remember all the things. Oh yeah, I forgot we went here, we did that. Oh, they fell in the pond, that was hilarious. Things like the stories is what I love the most. And so my scrapbooks now are a lot simpler, and they may have a little bit of colored paper or something just to kind of give it a background and backdrop, but gone are the elaborate stickers, gone are the elaborate drawings all over it, gone are taking 2 hours to do one page. Now what takes me the longest is writing the story. Sometimes the page will be half writing, half photographs, because that's the part I love. And it does simplify things, simplifies the amount of stuff I have to have, that's for sure. So shrink your projects to the point of just the parts that you love. So some tools if you think you are a scanner. And these come out of the book, and she gives lots of different tools. These are just some of the highlights. Again, if you identify with this, I highly recommend you read it. You will get a lot out of it. So if you think you're a scanner, first, make a list of everything you're interested in, everything. Because one thing that she emphasized over and over, scanners think, well, I've got 1,000 ideas. I've got 1,000,000 ideas. I can never get anything down or started. There's just too many. But if you sit there and make a list, you'll find it's probably not 1,000. It may not even be 100. Maybe it is, but 100's not 1,000. So make a list of everything, even things maybe you've already done a little bit. Like maybe, I have an interest in sewing. I would still put that on the list, even though I've done sewing. So make a list of everything. And if you start getting overwhelmed or it starts feeling pointless, make a new list, a list of the things you've done. This is probably one of the biggest tools. In fact, I think everyone should do this every year, every decade, something. In fact, there are some days I want to do it every day instead of waiting. But make your done list. I've done this in two different ways. One was an art course I took, and we had to basically make a timeline of our art career. And so when I sat down and started writing things out, I was amazed at the things I had done over the years. There were a lot of my first and my first solo exhibit, my first, award, and just different things I did along the way. When I started writing my first blog, all these different things. Even when I opened my Facebook page for art, all these first and things that were done, it made me feel good. It made me feel like, even though my career has had a lot of starts, I've worked it around my family and raising my kids, it still made me feel like I had accomplished a lot. And the second time I did this, my husband and I were kind of creating a bucket list. I'm sure everybody knows what a bucket list is. It's things you're, supposedly want to do before you kick the bucket. And while I was writing it, I started writing out things that I had already done, so I could sort of like check them off. Things like I've rappelled down a rock cliff. I've jumped off a high dive into a lake. I've illustrated a book. I've ran 5 miles. I've kayaked in the ocean. Different things like that. I've raised 3 kids. That's a huge accomplishment. When you sit down and write this, whether you want to do it from the perspective of your career or if you want to do it perspective of your life in general, or both, combine them. Writing a done list makes you realize that, yes, first, you do get stuff done, and 2, yes, you can finish things. I think that is probably one of the biggest things scanners deal with, is this concept of so much unfinished, so much left to do. Get that done list down and you'll realize you've done more than you think. The A third big tool for scanners is a day book, or I like to call it an idea book. And it's basically kind of a journal or a sketchbook with blank pages inside. And she instructs you to do it a little bit differently. When you open the book, you basically start on the left side so that you've got 2 blank pages across. And this is where you record your ideas, your interest, and it's a free-for-all. Anything goes. You have your big ideas, you start on the left page, and then you can branch off all sub-ideas for it and different things and different what-ifs and sketches and words and tables and lists. And if you need more than 2 pages, keep going. But, most of the time, if you've got a decent size idea book, 2 pages are going to do to just capture it. And no ideas crazy. She has a quote from the book. Scanners shouldn't throw ideas out like trash, no matter how many they have, no matter how half-baked the ideas may be. Respect for the ideas is the same as respect for the idea maker, you. And I love that. Give yourself respect, record those ideas. Just the act of recording alone gives most of them the respect that they need. Doesn't mean you're going to do it or it's going to be fully thing, but getting it out of your brain onto the paper gives it that place for it to reside. And the 4th tool, and this is my favorite, are interest notebooks. And she recommends you take 3 reed binders, and that is your repository for anything that goes with your idea. I have made these for mosaics, for crafts, for household projects, for cooking, for fitness, for travel. At one point, I had probably a whole bookshelf just of notebooks. I had fun just making the notebooks, but it gave a place for all my ideas to reside. And anytime I'd come across something, I pulled it from a magazine or had an instruction book or something, I could put it in the corresponding notebook. And then I knew where it was when I wanted to work on whatever that project is. Over the years, I've kind of condensed some of them down. Like I think now I just have a craft notebook instead of one for holidays and different things. But it keeps you organized, and it's good to revisit because I'll put things in there maybe for a Christmas craft, but I don't tend to do Christmas crafts until, the last quarter of the year. And it keeps you from tearing your house up looking for it. You go into that and you find things that you forgot you put in there. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want to do that now. So I love the interest notebooks. Or at the very least, do an interest folder. Be able to tuck that in there. Anything that can help you record and capture your ideas. And if you are a digital person, you can do it digitally. There's all kinds of different things. I mean, that's essentially what Pinterest is almost, are these interest notebooks digitally. The only thing with Pinterest is it does get a bit overwhelming. I probably have 60 Pinterest boards. I wouldn't have room for 60 notebooks in my house. So having something physical does keep you a little contained. Or if you use some other way of doing it, but that can keep it to a point where it is actually a help to you and doesn't get more overwhelming. Because that's the point, is to keep it to where you can keep yourself focused, capture the ideas, and be able to go back to it, not give you another outlet for overwhelm. So I hope that listening to this, you've had an idea, if you are a scanner, maybe what type you are, some ideas on how to handle having this onslaught of interest all the time, and some ways to concentrate and focus that interest in a way that's usable to you. Again, there's many, many more ideas in the book. This is just kind of a topical overview and the things that helped me. But the number one takeaway from Barbara Sher's Refuse to Choose is refusing to choose is okay. So go be creative and feed your soul. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this is again episode 5. If you haven't listened to the other 4, please give them a listen. And if you like these, help me out by subscribing, hitting the like button. It helps me get more reach, and then you'll also know when a new one comes out. Thank you.